Welcome to Journey to Daybreak. I'm Rita Golden. We know that no one likes pain and suffering, but can you point to a time when great suffering carried with it a great blessing? Perhaps you have heard this story, but it bears repeating. Do we know how the beautiful pearl came to be? In the beginning, it is nothing but a grain of sand. The tiny, small irritant, the small speck of sand, enters inside the tight seal of an oyster shell and immediately causes discomfort. With no way to expel the grain of sand, with no way to ease the pain, the oyster coats the sand with a layer of the inner lining of its own shell to make the sand smooth. This still does not ease the oyster's suffering. Again and again and again, the oyster coats the sand, but all of the attempts to get rid of the irritant have little effect. As far as an oyster is concerned, what we call a pearl is nothing more than great suffering. But one day, the oyster is fished from the water and opened. The gem inside has amazing beauty and holds great value, all because the oyster had great suffering. In today's program, the Reverend Dr. Martha Toney will be sharing some thoughts on how to find meaning and purpose in the dark seasons of life. Now, here is Dr. Martha Toney.
Greetings. This is Dr. Martha Toney. We're so happy that you've joined us for Journey to Daybreak. It is our greatest desire to join you on your personal spiritual journey, and today we are offering you a signed copy of my book, Journey to Daybreak. For a gift of any amount, please write us at the following address: Dr. Martha Toney, P.O. Box 160053, Boiling Springs, South Carolina, 29316, or you can go to my webpage, marthatoney.com. Please feel free to send us your prayer requests or just a few words about yourself and your spiritual journey. We're always interested in hearing from you. The author of the book of Ecclesiastes asks the question, what is the meaning and purpose of life? Then he answers that it is meaningless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. At the end of his discourse, he concludes that without God, nothing really satisfies. Another way of saying this is that the greatest tragedy in life is not death, but a life without purpose. God is a God of purpose, but sometimes His purpose is not the same as our own. Until we face great suffering, most of us really do not know our purpose. Indeed, we think that our plans are our purpose. It is in learning to suffer that we're often able to line up our plans with God's purpose. And in doing so, we find not only the reason we were born, but also the meaning and purpose of life as God meant for it to be. Nothing in this world provides motivation for spiritual growth like great suffering. Until our soul finds its purpose in God, there is a kind of an empty hole in the soul. And when life is easy and smooth, it's just very tempting to ignore this hole or to cover it up with a lot of activity or luxuries with which we've been blessed. But suffering, the agent that unveils this hole in our soul as no other agent can, opens the door not only to our own pain, but to the collective pain of all humanity. Every time we love another human being, we run the risk of a part of our own selves dying. Suffering allows this risk to be accelerated. Loving and living take on new intensity with suffering. Henry Nouwen describes risk in this way. In the middle of the pain, he says, is a hidden gift. I, more and more in my life, have discovered that the gifts of life are often hidden in the places that hurt most. End of quote. Suffering is the great transformer of the soul. It never leaves us as it finds us. Suffering is on a mission to make us something that we have never been before. Something bigger, better, and perhaps holier. If suffering is like love, a gift, then our part is to receive its many mysteries with the same kind of passion with which we receive love. But how can we learn to listen to pain, that great megaphone of God to the soul? How can we hear the lessons which pain wishes to teach us? How can our attitudes be adjusted to accept a gift which we really don't want, and one in which all personal and private dignity are lost? As all pretense drops away, and as suffering does its painful work, how do we walk and not faint, run and not be weary? With nothing left of the self we once were, from where now does our passion and joy come? Think for a moment about a time when you have experienced joy right in the middle of devastating circumstances. Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, tells us that in the middle of such devastation, we are able to change from drifters to what Frankl calls shifters. We learn to shift our attitude to asking and answering the question, what is the meaning and purpose of my life and this suffering? Leo Tolstoy added to that question by asking, what is the meaning and purpose of my life within time, cause, and space? For Frankl and Tolstoy, as for the author of Ecclesiastes, it ultimately comes down to having faith. According to Tolstoy, the faith gives the finite existence of man an infinite meaning, which is not destroyed by suffering, deprivation, or death. Tolstoy made it clear that faith does not equate with what we call religion, although Tolstoy thought that religion has its own place. Religion itself cannot answer those existential questions. The answer must come from inside a person, in conversation and in relationship to the person's maker. Faith brings a person to believe in something other than him or herself. Jesus pointed out that the poor of this world understand this faith. They love life, have joy in life, and believe in life even in the most horrid circumstances. And the implication is that we can learn from the poor by observing how they shift their attitudes to facing life with courage. They approach life and death and suffering with tranquility and in most cases with joy. The great Christian writer C.S. Lewis relates that when we can honestly say, "Here is the thing I was made for," then we are addressing the secret signature of every living soul. But how many can say, Here is the thing I was made for. Perhaps suffering and pain are the catalysts that help us answer this question. And perhaps without these irritants, few of us would ever be able to know the thing for which we were made. Just as every soul is unique, so is every suffering unique. In his book, The Problem of Pain, Lewis describes how unique each soul is in the following way, and I quote, "Your soul has a curious shape because it is a hollow made to fit a particular swelling in the infinite contours of the divine substance, or a key to unlock one of the doors in the house of many mansions." He goes on to say, God will look to every soul like its first love, because He is its first love. Your place in heaven will seem to be made just for you and you alone, because you were made for it stitch by stitch, as a glove is made for a hand. Each of the redeemed shall forever know and praise some aspect of the divine better than any other creature can. The suffering given to each of us also has a curious shape that is a key which unlocks the mysteries from within our very beings, and each of our sufferings, born with the creative touch of receptive appreciation as a gift, too, can be a form of praise as no other creature fulfills in the divine life of God. The self-surrendering in acceptance to pain is an opening, an unveiling of reality, every bit as strong as love in its shaping us into the character God intends for us to become. In suffering, we become tempered steel because a creative and unique work of art has taken place in our souls. I'm so glad today that you have been with us in our theme today about suffering. There is no one on earth that will escape suffering, and I hope somehow that our lesson today will be of benefit to you in the suffering you may be encountering now. As I told you in the beginning, we would like to be able to send you a signed copy of my book called Journey to Daybreak. We like to feel that we are giving you something, and we appreciate if there would be some way you could, even a small gift, a donation of any amount, write to us at Dr. Martha Toney, P.O. Box 160053, Boiling Springs, South Carolina, 29316. A donation of any amount, we will send you a signed copy of my book, Journey to Daybreak. Or you're also welcome to go to my webpage, marthatoney.com. And feel free to send us your prayer request or just a few words about yourself and your own spiritual journey. We're always interested in hearing from you. So I invite you to keep looking up, keep walking in the light on your own personal journey to daybreak. This is Dr. Martha Toney. Until next time, keep walking in the light.